Good evening, good day, everyone, and compliments of the day in whichever part of the world you're connected or where you're connecting from. It's glad to have you here. Yes, let's get into it. I'm so glad to be in class, and I'm so glad to serve you this professional knowledge. I call it professional knowledge. I'm so glad not to only teach cybersecurity, but to teach GRC. I want to believe for some of us in class, if you're not, please note, if you're unable to finish GRC today, no issues. We're going to continue in our next class. That will be next Thursday. So it's a loaded session. I mean GRC. I'm going to take each elements in this concept one at a time. So I'm not going to rush it. I'm not going to try to fuse it into you. So please, let's get along. Just, I can assure you, I'm going to serve it to you really good. Though we are looking at the essentials of GRC, we're looking at just mastering the essentials. GRC is an advanced, very advanced concept.
Yes,
So,
yes.
sorry, you do well by muting, Mister. We can hear a voice at the background. So, you will be mastering the basics, and what you'll be mastering is good enough. I mean, good enough for you to go out and claim you know GRC. So let's look at it. GRC. What exactly is the concept GRC? And then what does it entail? First thing first, I would like us to start with the origin of this statement. It is not a word per se or an acronym. I want you to go home tonight or at the end of the session with a handy, very concrete, also basic but concrete understanding of this concept: governance, risk, and compliance. So let's get to its nitty-gritty. Before the name GRC ever came to be, there was this word, and still is, called corporate governance, right? Okay. I would like to say that primarily an organization as a going concern has oversights. There are oversight functions over an organization. That is what keeps it running. That is what makes the organization actualize its objectives. When I mean oversight function, I'm talking about a set of responsibilities that are assigned or placed on the shoulder and desk of certain persons classified as leaders or managers. But this oversight function's got two arms. One arm of this organization oversight function is called corporate governance. Another arm is called management. It simply means both capabilities, both functions provide oversights, but provide oversights uniquely. They both provide oversights, but uniquely. I would like to give you a tip of management. The management oversight or management, the management responsibility of providing oversight is over the day-to-day activities of the enterprise, of the organization. It may be profit-oriented, that is a business, or not for profit organization, e.g. a club, religious institutions and outfits, and or religious organizations and the likes. They are not for profit. But then the oversight function provided over the day-to-day running activities of that institution, which is called operations, or in today's parlance, we call it BAU, the business as usual of the organization, is called management. But when it comes to the overall oversight, of providing direction and control for that institution, we call that corporate governance. You can also say enterprise oversight. For simplicity's sake, management oversight is what is being done per day and tending towards actualizing the objectives of the enterprise. For instance, the oversight put in place to ensure performance actualized, basic objectives, everyday objectives or goals, short-term goals are actualized, everyday targets are actualized. That is management in its basic form. And it involves the assignment of tasks, the allocation of resources, and the supervision of what activities and personnel to ensure that these objectives, these set goals or targets are actualized from daily to weekly, monthly, quarterly, and also yearly. But when it comes to the overall oversight, which we popularly call corporate oversight or enterprise oversight, such oversight doesn't look into the day-to-day operational activities of the enterprise or the BAUs. No, rather, it looks at the mid to long-term objective, how it will be actualized, the mid to long-term objective of the organization, how it will be actualized. That is what we call governance. So governance is not short-term, although can be adapted into short-term goals. I will explain that when we go into governance. As I said, I'm going to serve it to you individually, G, R, and C, because I need you to get this concept. I need to get it very well. I'm trying to help some of us on this call and in this session to be well informed so you can reach a decision point as to, I think I'll prefer GRC amongst other capabilities in cybersecurity. When we get to DPP, data protection, data privacy and protection, I want to get you so informed and well knowledgeable about it so that some of us might be able to reach a decision point in that direction. And the last for this free training, though not the last capability in cybersecurity, is called security operations and defense, SecOp. I would also try to serve you really good so that you can be well informed, better knowledgeable about it to reach that point and say, I think I'll prefer SecOp without you having to listen to any other person. So let's get into it further. Governance and management. I cap it up there. Now, if these two oversight function is what we have over the organization, the emphasis now is on governance, corporate governance. Although we will not narrow corporate governance into, or we funnel it, the oversight function of corporate governance, we will funnel it into cybersecurity. I hope you get the picture. Mind you, for the opt-in time, corporate governance is an enterprise oversight, is a corporate oversight. That is an oversight above the entire, that provides a bird's eye view over the entire organization. For instance, let's say the organization is a group company or a holding company and has subsidiaries. The oversight over all the subsidiaries or the BUs, SBUs or BUs, like they are popularly called strategic business units, that oversight is called enterprise or corporate. That's what we call corporate governance. But corporate governance can be funneled, as in that the principles and practices associated with corporate governance as an oversight capability can be funneled down to certain strategic functions and capabilities of an organization, e.g., the legal arm of the organization, or the legal function, legal department. If I say function, please, going forward, I'm referring to what we popularly call departments in the workplace. but in corporate sense, we say they are functions. So the marketing function means the marketing department, the finance and account function, you know what I mean now. So the same thing to cybersecurity is a function. And lastly, which I want to, some of the terminologies I'll be using is capability. I've used capability, right? Okay. Capacity and capability are not the same thing. I am saying this now because I am within the scope of knowledge where capability and capacity, most especially capability, is largely used. For simplicity's sake, Mr. A, let me give him a name, Dan, can drive. I hope you are getting me. Is skillful at driving. We would say he has the capacity to drive. Oh, Miss B can perform financial computations. She's got the capacity to do that task. You get this? To Miss B. A personnel to put it function accordingly as engaged, as employed. We would say that the sum of all manpower within the institution is no longer a capacity. It is a what? A capability. In that sense, a capability can be classified as, or can be termed as a resource. Or we can say a resource is a capability. A collection of resources amount to what? Capability. We can say a process capable of generating results is a what? Capability. I hope you're getting me. So if I say, and lastly, capabilities are strategic to the existence and going concern of the organization. I hope you're getting me. It's like, say, the production department or the production function. The production function itself is a capability or even a cluster of capabilities, because production department or the production function might not necessarily be a department or might be a sections ability depending on the size of the institution. Some capabilities generally are strategic to the existence of the institution. Governance, corporate governance can be narrowed down. That is, the principles and practices of corporate governance can be narrowed down into risk management as a capability, can be narrowed into compliance, though the legal departments, as they used to be called in institutions, are now popularly called compliance. Some institutions still separate compliance function from the legal. Corporate governance can be narrowed down into finance, can be narrowed down into the IT function. The reason is because the amount of activities performed by this function and their nature to the existence of that organization is becoming complex. In fact, some organizations' capabilities or individual functions are so complex that they are big enough to be an organization. What I mean is, the marketing department of an organization, of some organization, is so big that it's bigger than a complete organization elsewhere. Imagine an organization that has more than 1,000 workforce in the marketing function alone. Would you compare that structure, the human resource structure, the management structure within that department or that function, with an organization that has just 25 personnel or 30? Even if that organization that has 30 also has marketing, finance, IT, and the likes. So some functions are so big that their work has become so complex and would require governance, not just management practices. It means management is no longer enough. Management oversight is no longer enough for such function and the capabilities within that function. Rather, governance needs to be funneled into that function. I hope I'm building a body of knowledge, and I hope I'm communicating appropriately. So if that is laid, then let's go further, a step further, into the words GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, now making a concept in itself. Governance was and still is a concept different from risk and from compliance. These are capabilities. These are independent functions that were operating individually prior to when the name GRC came to be. But at a time, there were issues in the corporate world that, in spite of the presence of corporate governance, risk management, compliance, and the other assurance functions. I said assurance functions like audit, accounts, cybersecurity, and the likes. I'm going to talk about these assurance functions as we go on. Aside, these assurance functions, despite their presence and their existence and functionality, organizations were still seen to be violating regulatory standards, regulatory requirements, laws of the land, leading to some of them going into extinction. In these parts of the world, or even across the globe, we got some banks that no longer exist. Few months to the time they went extinct, they were popular and they were known. All of a sudden, you just heard on the news some, unexpected performances from them or reports about them, and the next thing they are gone. Despite having these capabilities, why did they vanish away? Why did they cease to exist? Even if the government of the land did not sanction them, or even if they were sanctioned, the sanction may not be weighty enough to get them off the hook or get them off existence, so to put it. But why? In spite of this, they have risk management, they have compliance, of course, they have the board, which is saddled with the responsibility of what governance. That is where governance starts from. They got the C-suite. When I mean the C-suite, the chiefs, chief finance officer, chief executive officer, chief audit officer. They got these chiefs. In spite of this array of competencies, why did this institution collapse? We got two banks in Silicon Valley in the US that collapsed sometime last year. They just went into extinction. One of them is known for cryptocurrency. I know one or two of us, we know, or some of us will know the story. We got banks like that and investment houses, they just went into extinction. I'm building a body of knowledge, and I want you to get along. So some brains came together and felt there is a problem, and that problem is critical. That problem, though the leadership of an institution appears to be addressing it, yet the institutions are failing. Institutions are fading. Institutions are going into extinction. They're folding up. It means that problem is not properly addressed. It could mean that the problem is not properly identified, or the problem is properly identified, but the solution not properly crafted. Or the solution is properly crafted, but the solution is not what? Operationally effective. Do you get it? So on that premise came this concept of GRC. There was an incident that happened in the early 2000s in the US that gave, if you've heard about Enron, okay, there was these laws that came to be in the US around 2002. This popular law called Sarbanes-Oxley's Act. So it was this incidents that occurred at the time that gave rise to, okay, if that's the case, let us do what? These fine brains, let's galvanize these capabilities together into a unified force. And there is this principle that governed this galvanization, governed this harmonization of these capabilities. It is called synergy. Synergy mathematically would say 1 + 1 can give you 11. Though we know by normal arithmetic that 1 + 1 gives you 2. But synergy, by its mathematical principle or algorithm, will tell you that 1 + 1 does not necessarily have to give you 2. If 1 and 1 are strategically, tactically, or effectively aligned, the efforts of 1 and 1 might be 11. That is, we just might gain, we may be expecting 2 and eventually have 11. So it is that mindset that gave rise to this concept, GRC. This group of persons christened that name, or their group, as Open Compliance and Ethics Group. It's 90s, well, it all started in the middle 90s. Institutions were failing in the US. If you remember, the real estate industry collapsed in the US, the stock collapsed in the US, the banking collapsed in the US. I've been mentioning US because the impact of those collapses were far-reaching. It was on a global scale. The collapse was in the US, but the impact was on a global scale. So it was due to these occurrences that these fine brains came together and unified these capabilities together and called it governance, risk, and compliance. They didn't stop there. They came up with a model, or what I will like to call a framework. We're going to look at the outline of that particular framework or model. So they went on to say that GRC, governance, risk, compliance, is integrated collection of capabilities that enable an organization to achieve principled performance. I choose to read that line. Sorry, wherever you find him, whatever line you find in bold or words you find in bold is on purpose. That is how I put my thoughts together. When I'm building a body of knowledge, I put some lines. So wherever you find the bold, please, that's the crux of that paragraph or that statement. So the aim of this harmonization is to achieve performance. I hope you get it. So let's go ahead. Let's check. Let's look at the next slide and see what principled performance is. GRC, which they coined 2020 and 2002, and what it is meant to achieve, principled performance. They rightly put here, according to OC, that it is a concept that encompasses an organization's ability to reliably achieve and act with integrity. Please note that. They will. Their risk incidents, also classified as what? Events with negative impacts, can be identified and addressed, and also they would perform ethically. So these three attributes is what they classify together as principled performance. That is, we're not just talking about performance. Listen, we're not just talking about actualizing objectives. Objectives are actualized based on certain principles. The principles is that our process is reliable. We have measures in place that addresses uncertainty, and all our practices are governed. All our practices are guided by ethics. I hope you get the concept. So performances are not just actualized. It's not just enough that we set objectives and we actualize them. But these objectives are actualized based on certain principles. Let's build on it. They went on to say that principled performance is premised on 3 pillars. Just like I did mention about cybersecurity being premised on 3 pillars. Can somebody quickly, as a way of getting feedback from you, please hit the chat segment. Can you tell me the three principles governing cybersecurity, which also defines the objective of cybersecurity? Quickly. Let's on go. I want to get a feedback. Yes, you are not forgetful students. Let me get a feedback from you. I'm not saying the pillars of cyber. Okay, let me put it this way. Give me the 3 pillars of cybersecurity and give me the 3 principles of cybersecurity. Who is going to answer? Who's giving us the feedback? Who's going to give us feedback? Who's going to answer that? The 3 pillars of cybersecurity and the 3 principles.
People.
The confidentiality, integrity, and availability.
People, technology, and process.
Thank you. I'm glad you did not forget that talk, right? In the same vein, these folks gave us 3 pillars of principled performance. Mind you, principled performance, what the concept is, we are not just setting goals to actualize them. We are actualizing these goals based on principles like ethics. I hope you get that. Risk management. We are risk conscious. We are risk informed. So if we set objectives, we will not set objectives that are beyond our capacity to manage this risk. In other words, should we set objectives, we should also be mindful of events or incidents that can stall the actualization of that objective. Just like, say, if I sow 2, I'm expecting to reap 3. So, in other words, or let me put it in for clarity. If I sow 2 seeds, I'm expecting to reap 3 outcomes. Now, what if I know? If I'm sowing 2, expecting to reap 6 outcomes, it means that practice is not principled. I hope you get the analogy of principled performance. If I'm expecting efforts, I should put in place to actualize 10. If 5 will give me 10, then I have to sow 5, or I have to commit 5. If 2 would give me 3, then it has to be 2. It should never be what? 1. I hope you get the concept. That is an analogy of principled performance. They went on to say that these 3 pillars are 1, principled purpose. An organization's principled purpose is expressed in what they call mission, vision, and values, otherwise called core values or norms. What they mean here is that an organization must be what? Must be purposeful, and that purpose must be principled. In other words, it's not enough to say this is our vision or mission statements. We got to be purposeful about it. That makes it principled. That is, there got to be principles driving that vision. It's not enough to say this is our vision, these are our mission, these are values. You just like copy and paste, or you just draft something and you never get committed to it. No, that is why it is called principled. You got to be committed to it. You got to be integrous about it. Number 2 is people. A very good way to put principled people is the bold you find on the line. Strong people of strong character. In other words, putting the square peg in the square hole, the round peg in the round hole. If I'm employing or engaging a skill set, manpower, it has to be a person of what? Of character. It has to be the individual with the right capacity and capability to function. I hope you get this concept. I'm still building the thoughts. I've not entered GRC in depth. I'm still building it all. What gave rise to it? From OCEG. OCEG as an organization, just like BCG, Boston Consulting Group from Massachusetts, they gave us the 4 quadrants of, if you understand this product performance classification, cash cow, star, question mark, and dog. That is how this group 2 gave us this. If you remember PCG matrix, then you remember the quadrants. If you remember OCEG, then you should remember what? Principled performance and the pillars. The last is principled pathway. What they are saying here by principled pathway is that the organization must leverage on certain capabilities that will lead to the actualization of its objectives. These capabilities, if they are effectively implemented and operationalized, like governance, like strategic management, performance management, risk management, compliance management, internal audits, internal control, or cybersecurity, if these capabilities are properly put in their right positions and places, they can be leveraged on to actualize the organization's objective. Please, I need you to know that the bottom line of strategic alignment, that is, and actions, including capabilities, should and by necessity must. Yeah.
We couldn't hear you for a few seconds. So I think it's actually the network.
Oh. Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. You are now. Thank you. Sorry for interjecting.
Now? No problem. Permit me to view my connections and sorry. Okay. Is it better now? Am I audible? Can you? Is it better now? Is it better now? Can you hear me? Can I go? Can I continue?
You can continue. I'm actually responding in the chat. Thank you.
Okay.
You're audible, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So these are the pillars: principled purpose, principled people, and principled what? Pathway. The various capabilities that you can leverage on. Once you have these capabilities in place and they are functional, they can help actualize. I was making a thought that the crux of GRC, according to OCEG, is strategic alignment. There are other objectives, but the primary objective is what? Strategic alignment. That is, all plans, all purposes, all actions, all strategies, all functionalities or functions and their capabilities must strategically align the organization. In other words, function A must not be operating independently of function B, leading to lack of goal congruence. Goal congruence must be enforced such that all functionalities are aware, all functions and capabilities are aware of the corporate objective of that institution. And also, they are all working together harmoniously to actualize that objective. So there will be no dissenting view. There will be no conflict of interest. It is an advanced concept, GRC. Let's go ahead. They went on to say here that should you put principled performance, as in should you enforce it across all functions, you will achieve these 10 universal outcomes. You will be able to achieve as an organization your objectives. And not only would you achieve your objectives in terms of maybe, primary objective of most businesses is what? Profits maximization, but you're able to what? produce, deliver, and preserve value. You will be able to balance your risk vis-a-vis your reward. You will be able to improve corporate culture, the way we do things here. You will be known for certain standards. You will be able to enhance stakeholder confidence, like customers, shareholders, even regulatory bodies and competitors. You will buy their confidence, or you secure their confidence. You will be able to integrate and improve on decision making. So decisions will not be made thoughtlessly. Decisions, there will be a laid down approach to reach a decision point. So decisions will not be made randomly. You will be able to prevent, detect, and correct undesired conduct and weaknesses from manpower, from third party or vendors and the likes. You will be able to promote, detect, and reward desired conduct and strength. You will be able to sense and respond to contexts, opinions about your institution. You will be able to improve total performance. And lastly, there will be honor and expression of values. Principled performance implementation. How do we implement it into the system? I mean your institution. One, according to OCEG's capability model, the current model is version 3.5. If you want to have a copy of this model for free, please hit their sites, OCEG. I think it should be .org, yes. Hit their site. I have a copy of this model. It's free now. At the time, it was not free, but recently I visited the site. I saw it's free. How do you access a free copy? Visit their site, register an account. Between 2 or 3 steps, you're done registering, creating an account. The moment you enter your email and register, a link will be sent to your mail, and that link contains the download. The moment you refer back to your mail, at first while you create, an OTP will be sent to your email to consummate the account creation. And then the moment it is consummated, you can visit your email and then find the link. But please, let me quickly say something in that, because if you do go to the site and just create an account, does not mean you will get the link automatically to download it. But should you visit their resource center or just go to Google and search OCEG capability model, the link that comes from Google search, follow that link. It will lead you to the page containing the download link for this document. Is still free. Click on that download link, then the interface for account registration will come up. As you complete the account registration, which is like 2-3 steps, you will now get a link automatically in your email that will lead you to that will automatically lead to a download. Then you can have a copy. It's about almost 10 megabytes. That's to tell you how big the book is. Not so big anyway, but it's quite rich. So you may need to lay hand on it. By implementing principled performance, you will follow these steps. One, you will need to understand, which is called learn. You will need to understand the organization's context, its culture, its stakeholders. You will need to understand the organization's environments, both internal and external environments. You would need to also the step of alignment. You remember when I said about strategic alignment? So the first thing to implement principled performance is to learn, understand the institution, understand its operations, understand what all the factors and forces that make up its internal and external environment. Number 2 is alignment or align. This will now be to align the organization's functions and capabilities, their practices, operations, targets, objectives, and performances. You would need to align it strategically with the overall objective or goal of the enterprise. I've talked about that. Then performance. Number 3, which is called perform, you need to execute actions that promote and reward desirable outcomes. This in itself is a motivational force, is a motivational factor. By promoting and rewarding desirable outcomes and preventing and remediating undesirable ones, you will realize that the organization would operate seamlessly. Lastly, review. Continuously review the design. That means you wouldn't need to go and sleep or rest your arms because you've done step 1, 2, and 3, and you are glad that everything is fine. You now need a review mechanism because the possibility or probability that there might be misalignment will come up. I hope you are getting me. So you would need to review the system, review the design and effectiveness of these strategies from time to time. Poor GRC, if an institution doesn't implement the right GRC, I'm still referring to OCGO. Please follow the line. I hope you're following the top line. I'm still referring to OCG's GRC. This is their work. I'm only referencing it. They said, or they claimed, that if governance risk and compliance as an harmonized capability is poor, it will lead to high cost of operation. There will be wastages, financial and material resource wastages. There will be lack of visibility into risk. The institution will not identify risk on time. It means their approach to risk will be more reactive. That is, the incident would have occurred, impact would have been felt, there would have been losses before the institution would do the needful, which is more devastating or more expensive than what if their risk approach is proactive. They also claimed that there will be inability to address third-party risk. Most institutions today rely on third party to carry out some of their operations, even critical operations. There will be difficulty measuring risk-adjusted performance. Well, this is a deep thought, risk-adjusted performance, because there's this concept called risk-informed or risk-aware decisions, actions, performance, and so on and so forth. It's a deep thought. Is an area of mastery in risk management. So I can't go into it now. Then there will be too many negative surprises. You know what we mean by negative surprises? Like fraud. I hope you're getting that. You get that. But when GRC is good, that is, principled performance is in place, there will be reduced costs, reduced duplication of efforts. There will be what? Reduce the conflict of interest. There will be reduction of impact on operations. I mean, negative impact on operations will be reduced, if not eliminated. Then achieved greater information quality, achieve greater ability to gather information quickly and efficiently. Your information will be sanitized, will be clean. It will not be a piece of information is released now, another one is released later on the same subject or concept, which are conflicting. Wherever you find such, there is lack of what? Of GRC. Perhaps you have had, let me give you a use case. You may have had an instance or may have seen an instance where report is shared or a piece of information is released from 2 or 3 process owners, like the legal department is saying something about the organization, or the compliance department is saying something about the institution. Public relations is saying something else. Human resource manager is saying something else on the same subjects. And you're like, who do I believe? Hello, aren't you people organized? I know you must have had or seen such instance in corporate organizations. Aren't you people organized? What's wrong here? Yes, when you see such instances occur, it shows GRC is lacking. But where you find coherent information, reliable information, then GRC is at work. Then there will be achieved greater ability to repeat processes in a consistent manner. If we have good GRC in place, BAUs, business as usual, or operational activities will be templated and will be consistent. The way it is done yesterday will be the way it is done today and will be the way to be done tomorrow. There will be continuity of actions. Now, they went on to give us this, that there is a mindset to GRC, and I need you to have this mindset too. They claim that GRC mindset is not just about implementing tools or implementing software, or okay, I went for a training, they said there is a mindset to it. And the mindset is about building a culture of responsibility where every personnel is responsible, where there is risk awareness. You know, I talked about risk informed or risk aware decisions, actions, and so on. There will be risk awareness. Let me quickly shed light on that. It means before a decision point is reached, before an action is taken, before a move is made, you would have applied risk assessments to determine not just the objective of that move, supposed action or strategy, but on the flip side, you would also consider what can possibly go wrong. And that will not stall you from implementing that action, no, or executing that strategy. Rather, there will be readiness. You will not only prep for actualizing objectives, you will also prep to address uncertainties should they come up. That form of posture is what we call proactive approach to risk. Do you get that? You are not only implementing strategies, you are not just only overwhelmed or carrying the objective of what you intend to achieve alone. You are also on the flip side of your preparedness. You have readiness for what? For uncertainties. Should something might go wrong, in spite of all your preparations, you still have this. It doesn't mean you are paranoid. It doesn't mean you are skeptical. It doesn't mean you know. It is, we call it risk awareness, risk consciousness, that it just something unexpected just might happen. So what if it creeps up? There should be a plan in place to respond to it. So GRC's mindset includes building that culture of responsibility, risk awareness for all, and accountability for every action. So no action will go unaccounted for. Then it emphasizes structured governance, clear policies, not ambiguous policies or statements, continuous risk evaluation, robust compliance mechanism. That is the psyche of risk, governance, risk, and compliance. When it is applied now to cybersecurity, do you know how the mindset is? It will help the organization to move from being defensive to being proactive, from being reactive to being proactive. You become proactive. You become so proactive that you will have minimal cyber exposures. In continuation, for governance, the mindset will be setting the tone, the right tone at the top. That is, those saddled with the responsibility of governance will set the right tone. What about risk management? That function will be able to identify and prioritize cyber threats before they materialize or exploit a vulnerability. That mindset will ensure there is regulatory compliance, or we meet regulatory demand, and the institution is aware of regulations. Can I say this? That regulations stem from government agencies of the land. They issue regulations that guides, or that are meant to guide the operations of the regulated agencies or bodies, or regulated institutions, so that they can conform to a particular pattern. I hope you get that. That's regulation for you. In the same vein, there are what I would call local regulations, or internal regulations. An organization can self-regulate itself through its policies, procedures, programs, and baselines. We're going to talk about it shortly. So let's build on these thoughts. Let's now go into GRC and look at its components. Please look at this image. If you look at the outer layer of this image, you would find the triad: governance, risk, and compliance. It is true. At the onset of this concept by OCG, GRC was just restricted to 3 capabilities. But today, you know, change is a constant. Between 2002 and now, the GRC as an harmonized function has evolved, and it has captured other functions and capabilities into itself. And that's what you find within, in the enclosure within. The enclosure outside is just GRC, but the ones within, you find the names like audits, strategic management, business processes, policies and procedures, performance management, risk management, control activities. Any such function within an enterprise that has this as part of his what? Capabilities, or these as part of his what? Responsibilities, will capture such as GRC components. In other words, or cumulatively, all assurance functions in an organization amount to what? GRC. Assurance functions include audits, internal control, quality control. I hope you get that. All legal and so on and so forth. All assurance-based functions today are classified as GRC. Let's look at the 3 pillars of GRC. We want to go into what? G now. The 3 pillars of GRC are summarized here. We got governance. I've talked about governance. It's a set of what? Framework and processes and so on and so forth. And the aim is to ensure that what? Strategic objectives are actualized, and then there's compliance with regulations. But this is what it involves, like you can clearly see there. It involves establishing policies. Please, each of these, we're going to look individually. So do not let me stay here. Let me just move on. Each of these 3 pillars as introduced or as proposed, or now there is, according to the original work of OCG. We want to look at them one after the other. So let's get into governance. You know, I said at first that governance is one of the oversight functions of an organization. We got 2 oversight functions. We got governance, corporate governance, and we got management, right? Okay. Oftentimes, those saddled with the responsibility of providing governance are called leaders. Those saddled with the responsibility of providing oversight over operational activities are called managers. I take it again. Those saddled with the responsibility of governance functions are called leaders. Those saddled with the responsibility of providing oversight over what? BAUs, organizations' daily activities or routines, are called managers. Now, in these slides, we're looking at governance. And governance, as stated here, is a framework of policies, processes, and controls. I like to want to put it that's implemented to manage risk and what? And cyber risk. Now it is now cybersecurity. You know, into different functions and capabilities in an organization. So in the light of cybersecurity, governance means the policies, processes, and control measures that the institution implements to address cyber risk. Cybersecurity incidents is what is called cybersecurity governance. I like to put in this order, in another sense, that other than cybersecurity governance, there's another name. It is called the information security governance. Sometimes in some institution, it comes under the umbrella word ITG, IT governance. For some other institutions, they call it governance of enterprise IT. For some other institutions, they call it enterprise governance of IT. If you find an organization christens theirs as IT governance, or governance of enterprise IT, or enterprise governance of information technology, it simply means all IT-related functions have been absorbed into IT departments. I hope you get that, or into the IT function. So it means within the ITG, IT governance, you would find individual frameworks tailored to what? These areas of IT, cybersecurity, software development, network administration, systems administration, and so on and so forth. Then they went on to say in the other bullet that it encompasses strategic direction, risk management, and oversight needed to ensure CIA. Means to implement and actualize CIA, national integrity and availability, cybersecurity governance is a necessity. And if it is properly implemented, it will help to protect sensitive or critical data. Remember I talked about what? Assets classification yesterday, or resource classification. I said basically there are about 4 critical systems or resources or processes: sensitive, vital, non-sensitive. You remember? Okay. Such protection over these classes of resources and processes would be actualized through cybersecurity governance. Features of cybersecurity governance include: 1, accountability framework. Every action should be accounted for. For instance, who got a transaction processed? There should be a log that captures these activities. So should issues arise, we can reference this log. And as the individual, can you please account for a given action? The age in which we live is highly digitized. We operate both in the cyber world or in the cloud, and also what? Physically. Activities have multiplied within the cyberspace or the digital environment. The need for accountability is a necessity. So by putting cybersecurity governance in place, by instituting it or institutionalizing it, there will be accountability. Decision-making will have a hierarchy. Decision points will not be reached hastily. There will be a lay-down procedure to reach a decision point. There will be defined risk related to business objectives. I talked about this earlier, or a moment ago. That is not just enough to set goals and want to actualize them. On the flip side, you're also mindful of what? Risk, incidents, or events that might happen and will lead to what? And will lead to loss of actualization of that objective. Okay, let's go on. There will be what? Part of the feature of corporate governance would be what? Mitigation plans and strategies. We're going to look at mitigation plans when we get to risk management. Then oversight processes and procedures will be in place. Oversights, like management, will be in place. Effective management will be in place. Sound system of management will be in place. The right man for the right job. The square peg in the square hole will be, or the round peg in the round hole would be in place. These are features of what? Cybersecurity. Components of cybersecurity, there are quite much, about 10 of them, from OCG2. Because strategic alignment, risk management, policies and standards. We're still going to talk about risk management. Policies and standards we're going to talk about is security architecture. That's an advanced concept within cybersecurity. There will be security architecture. So security would not just be implementing cybersecurity on hunches. There will be a modality. There will be a model. There will be a structure for cybersecurity implement. That is, there will be a cybersecurity system within the institution. Then there will be monitoring and evaluation, a key control function. There will be incident response. So should incidents occur, like disasters, we would have response plan or strategies in place that can be implemented or invoked to address such incidents. There will be compliance in place, which is a critical aspect of what? GRC. Resource allocation. Resources would not be allocated wrongly. Why do you allocate resources? Number one reason you should allocate resources is because there is a given task to be performed. I take it again. Resources should never be allocated in the absence of a given task or set of tasks. Otherwise, it will amount to gross inefficiency. It will amount to what? There will be nothing to actualize. So there will be lack of effectiveness due to what? Lack of no actualization of goal. And there will be what? Wastefulness, which is an epitome of inefficiency. Effectiveness, according to Adam Smith, is doing the right thing. Efficiency is doing things right. Therefore, effectiveness is the ability to set the right goal, put in the necessary strategies that will lead to the actualization of that goal. That is, goal matching is actions, or actions matching goals. Efficiency is what, according to Adam Smith, doing things right, is the ability to identify the right task and allocate resources equally to that task. Do you get it? So it is not the duty of efficiency to craft the assignments or the strategies. No, it is the duty of effectiveness to set goals and strategize for them. But it is the duty of efficiency as a capability and a capacity to identify those tasks, those activities, those BAUs, those set of actions that have been designed for that have been designed to be executed to actualize those goals, and allocate resources equally. So if you allocate resources in excess, that is inefficiency. If you underallocate resources, it's inefficiency. It's a skill set. Effectiveness and efficiency are a management skill set. And that is what that point emphasizes, resource allocation. Human capital is another component of cybersecurity governance. There will be a deliberate act to develop manpower. You would not rely on go and get yourself trained alone and we employ you, and you never send such a personnel for training again in the next 1, 2, 3 years in a very dynamic and ever-changing environment. Of course, you cannot expect that the residue of knowledge or competence that was brought into that institution will still be enough to get that workforce effective in the next 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, and thereabout. No, there will be a deliberate program designed to develop the manpower so that as business objectives scale, so should the manpower scale in terms of competence to actualize it. Business objectives cannot be increasing, and the resources required to actualize it remain the same way. That is a show of lack of GRC. Continuous improvements would be in place too. It's a component of GRC. So if we say we have GRC in place, those 10 components should be visible. Creating the foundation for governance, cybersecurity governance. How do we put cybersecurity governance in place? There is this pyramid. At the base is baseline or baselines. And as you work it up, you got guidelines, procedures, standards, and policies. Let's get into it. I take it again. To implement cybersecurity governance, simply follow this pyramid. These are measures you use to institute or institutionalize cybersecurity governance into your system. 1, cybersecurity policies. Policies, like they stated, they are high-level documents. They are always rigid and should be so. Policies should not be easily adjustable. Policy states what should be done, so everybody align with it. It establishes rules, objectives, and scope of cybersecurity practices. This is how it should be done. This is what should be done. Examples of a cybersecurity policy might be to state that all employees must use strong credentials. strong authentication. 2, cybersecurity standard. Standards are also mandatory and rigid. But let me put it this way, like those policies are rigid. Standards are mandatory. You just must comply with it. And that is why institutions don't develop standards for themselves. Rather, they adopt standard and institutionalize it through policies. It is not the responsibility of your organization to develop standards for itself. Of course, we will say it will be biased. I hope you're getting me. We will say it will be biased. Standards are usually referenced. Standards are usually adapted from industry recognized bodies. For instance, ISO, NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology. I hope you're getting me. ANSI and the likes. These are standard issuing bodies. So institutions reference industry standards. Through the use or the instrumentation of policies, they are adopted and institutionalized. So standards are mandatory and they are very specific. The purpose will be to provide measurable, enforceable criteria for achieving the organization's policies, the organization's objective. Then an example would be that the standard might specify that all workstations must have antivirus software. Yes, should you reference some IT standards? You will find this in IT management standards. Yes, from ISO and the like, there are lots of IT standards out there that have clauses for cybersecurity, and some like ISO 27001. That is an information security standard. Like NIST CSF version 2.0 is a what? Is a framework containing standards. What about CIS? Center for Internet Security that has 18 controls. That's a framework also containing standards. Okay, cybersecurity guidelines are recommendations, best practice recommendations. These recommendations define a course of action. Policy states what should be done. Guideline will now enunciate the steps, the actions to be performed in order to implement policies. It could be to offer advice or suggestion. And an example would be what? Recommending using specific tools to secure your email communication. Procedures, straightforward. How? Why policy is what? States what? Procedure states how in the light of cybersecurity. Step-by-step instruction for performing a specific cybersecurity related task. The essence of procedure is to ensure consistency and correct implementation of the policies and practices. A good example of procedure might be to detail the steps for reporting a security incident. For instance, they say if you see something, say something. The statement. How should I say it? Procedure will now outline how it should be said. Baseline, a lovely inclusion in cybersecurity governance. It sets the minimum level of security that must be met. The minimum level of security. Baseline, it means any such security measure below this level is unacceptable. Is either it is equal to this level or above this level in implementation, in adherence, in what? In compliance. But we can't go below this, no matter the incident, or no matter the requirement, no matter how urgent the demand is, we can't go below this level. Otherwise, going below it might expose us to cyber attack. The purpose is to ensure that systems meet a consistent and acceptable level. I like to put this. To enforce compliance, you got to set baseline. Did you get that? To enforce compliance, regulatory compliance, compliance to standards, or compliance to organizations' policies, best practices, you got to what? Implement or state the baseline. Okay, let's move on. Cybersecurity standards and frameworks. in the light of governance, we want to see, yes, cybersecurity's got standards and frameworks. These standards are structured sets of what? Guidelines. These standards and framework. For instance, ISO 27001 is a cyber and information security standard, also a cybersecurity standard, as christened by them, because ISO is a standards body, that is International Organization of Standardization. NIST, National Institute for Standards and Technology from the US, on the other side, is what? Is a standards body and has such standards like data privacy standard, cybersecurity, data privacy framework, cybersecurity framework. They actually christened theirs framework, while ISO christens theirs standards. But going by the contents, they all contain set of what? Guidelines, policies, procedures, or best practices that can help an organization manage and reduce its cyber security. Let me tell you one of the importance of having standards and framework adopted into your institution. Number one, it will set the tone for consistency. There will be consistent practice. So should a set of employees, any particular employee or set of employees leave the organization, another employees come on board, because the tone has been set, they will just fall in line, sync with that practice, and follow along. It's one of these very good benefits of having standards. Standards are never obscured. No. Standards are always explicit. They are articulate. So what do? You adopt them with the aid of what? A policy, and implement them with the aid of a program. I take it again. Standards are regulatory in nature. They are meant to ensure consistency of practices, organizational practices or practices, organizational operations. They are meant to ensure consistency. Such consistency will eventually lead to the actualization of objectives. Yes. Standards, cybersecurity standards, as an example, are what? Articulate. They are unambiguous, very clear and strict. They state what should be done and also contain guidelines on how they are to be done. Now, these standards can now be adopted into the organization's system with the aid of a policy and institutionalized with the aid of a program. So they set a roadmap for protecting digital assets. So what do? We just adopt and follow the lines. Lastly, frameworks are crucial for establishing strong security posture. When you see an organization with a formidable security posture or front, it shows they have standards in place, standards and framework. I wish you can do some personal studies on such standards as we look at them now. These are common standards. I wish you can do some personal studies of standard frameworks like NIST, ISO 27K, CIS controls that has 18 control, cybersecurity control measures. Each of them is standard on its own. And then if you can reference COBIT, control objective for information and related technology. If you can reference PCI DSS, payment card industry data security standard. If you can reference SOC 2 from AICPA, if you can reference them, I wish you can. Or should I say, I assign this task to you. Go and do studies about these standards. Master them. You will see how they enunciate, articulate what should be done. Put this in place, put that in place, institute this, implement that. I mean, you will be so informed and enlightened. You would appreciate the good works of standards and frameworks. So these are common standards, but got much more than this. So that is technically the end to governance, cybersecurity governance. We want to delve into cybersecurity risk management. In cybersecurity risk management, we have 3 layers of managing risk. Do you get that? Please, quickly, can I get a thumbs up or two if I'm still audible? Am I still audible? Please, quickly as a feedback. I'm entering a new, am I still audible, please? Can I get a feedback? Okay, thank you, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the feedback. Okay, so cybersecurity risk management. I said earlier at the beginning of this class that what? It is what? It is the concept. GRC is broad. It is strategic in nature, enterprise in its implementation. Do you get that? GRC is strategic in nature, enterprise in its implementation, and can also be what? Operational in its approach. Do you get that? I take it again. GRC is what? Is a broad concept, yes, very broad, and is strategic by nature. It is what? It is enterprise in implementation and is operational in its approach. What it means is that at operational level, we can what? We can introduce GRC into operations. We can also what? Implement GRC using an enterprise approach, which is also called a system approach. And at the same time, it is strategic in its nature. So it means GRC is an oversight function. You can find governance, which is an oversight function in GRC. You can find management. For instance, I said oversight has two arms. Governance and what? Organizational oversight has two arms, governance and management. In GRC, you see governance. In GRC, there is risk management. So it is a capability that harmonizes and galvanizes the oversight of governance and the oversight of management into a standpoint or into a unified whole. So it means I can operationalize it. I can implement it using a systems approach or an enterprise approach. Still at that point, it is strategic. It's a strategic concept. It's a strategic function. It's a strategic, is what? A strategic capability. The risk arm, the risk management arm of GRC has three layers. There's the operational risk management. Now, Christine, that's ROM, risk management. There's the enterprise risk management, and there's the integrated risk management. That is the advanced form of risk management in GRC. Let's get into it quickly. Okay, sorry. So let's look at it. What is risk? Simply put, risk is an event or incident whose occurrence can lead to loss. It's an event. Please note, risk is not a thing. Risk is an incident. Risk is an occurrence. It's a happening. It's an event. It is not a thing. I hope you get that. Though it's a concept, but that concept can happen. It's a happening. So it is when it happens, the impact becomes what? Negative. That is when we call it what? Risk. On the flip side, an event whose impact is positive is called opportunity. Do you get that? A business event whose impact is positive is opportunity. Or an organizational event whose impact is negative is called risk. In the light of cybersecurity, such events, cyber-related events, IT-related events with a negative impact on the organization's resource is called cybersecurity risk, or you just christen it as cyber risk. In the light of GRC, he said GRC risk management is an integrated approach to help institutions manage their risk, adhere to governance frameworks and regulatory requirements. I don't want to go so deep in the definition of risk. Risk has several definitions from persons, professionals, and professional bodies, standard bodies, and so on and so forth. But for simplicity's sake, risk is an event with undesirable outcome. Risk is an incident with undesirable outcome. Cyber security risk management combines governance practices into that function, risk assessment and compliance control. Let's build on it. Let's look at it quickly. We want to look at the core components or core concepts in risk management. Mind you, management is an oversight function. An oversight function tailored to what? Risk or uncertainties is what we call risk management, for simplicity's sake. Don't let me go into the big definition of risk management. Since we now know that management is an oversight function, just as governance, the oversight function tailored to addressing risk is what we call risk management. It has the following concepts. Every management function has key components or key concepts. The very first concept in risk management as a GRC function or as a tailored to cybersecurity is risk itself. And we've seen risk. I want to quickly say the 4 elements of 5. Whenever you mention risk, there are 5 key elements. Or when you say risk management, outside the fact that risk is at the core of risk management, there are 5 key elements. One of which is called what? Assets. There will never be an event called risk in the absence of a resource. It takes a resource for risk to occur. So if there is no risk in an environment, it is because there is no resource of value or worth. There's no resource generating or delivering value, or there is no resource that has worth. If that resource is creating, delivering, or preserving value, risk will occur. You know why? Risk will never be equal to 0. There will never be a time or an instance where there will be no risk. An environment that has no risk is an environment that has no resource. Okay, Funsho, what do you mean? Okay. Processes, business processes are resources too. Really? Yes. Resources are not only tangible objects or the intangible ones like software, data, cloud systems, and so on. Or services are resources. Oh, really? Yes. Welcome to the world of tech. Processes are resources. Really? Yes. Welcome on board. What defines a resource are 3 things. Its ability to generate value, 1. Its ability to deliver value, 2. Its ability to preserve value. What I mean is a process or a service might be generating value. Another process, delivering value. Yet another process, preserving it. A service might be creating value. Another service is delivering it. Yet another service is preserving it. They are resources. So these are the 3 attributes of a resource: generation, delivery, and preservation. In the light of risk or risk management, I mentioned assets now. The next concept is called threat. A threat is a potential. I talked about it yesterday, right? Is a potential that can cause harm. Yes, a threat can be an event. A threat can be physical. A threat can be, can be virtual. Even threats can be logical in the light of tech. Okay, permit me to say that technology exists in 3 states: in a physical state, in a logical state, and in a virtual state. For instance, your computer hardware, your phone, is a physical device. That's technology. The applications or the software running on it are not physical. They are what? They are logical. Data, for instance, is logical. Data is not physical. We only claim that data is physical when it's in a stored state. That's when we say physical data. Otherwise, data is not physical. But you might say, what about the book, that documentation? Sorry, we call it hard copy. You simply printed data on paper. Data is not in physical states. You're only expressing it on physical or through physical objects. So that paper is a medium to convey data now in physical states or through physical medium to whoever is reading it or whoever is in need of it. I hope you get it. So data or information or knowledge are logical resources. And they amount to what? To technology. Yes, so please note, let it be a take home for you that data today is a form of technology. You want to know more about it, find a data analyst, an analyst or data scientist. He will tell you that of a truth. Today, data is a form of technology. Lastly, virtual resources like virtual machines, having an operating system or existing in a virtual state within a computer. You have a computer, you virtualize an operating system, another operating like Kali Linux within your Windows operating system or cloud computing. Anything cloud computing are virtual resources. So please note for the opt-in time, technology is in 3 states, can be in either of 3 states or all of these states at a time. Hardware, physical or hardware. Example is hardware, logical or software, data, then virtual, the cloud computing. So threats, examples, natural disasters, cyber attacks, human errors, or it could be deliberate, to be called sabotage, or as it is called. It might be what? Inadvertent. It was not thought out. It was what? That's human error. Then equipment too can fail. All of these amount to threats. Then threats can be categorized as direct. Threats can be direct when you clearly identify them through threat intelligence or threat hunting. Threats can be indirect. For instance, you remember supply chain attack. That's an indirect threat. An attacker is targeting your system through a what? A third party who provides you a service. Indirect. Threat can also be veiled, hidden, like stealth malware. For instance, there are viruses that are categorized as what? As stealthy. That is, if your system is infected with such malware, it will take an advanced antivirus to detect it. They can steal, they can hide the identity. We also have conditional threats that are triggered by certain conditions. They are harmless until a condition occurs. We got vulnerabilities in risk management, weaknesses or flaws in the system. I like to put it here in straight terms. There is no digital resource or there is no tech resource that does not have a vulnerability. Not just tech, there is no resource. Anything of value that you call a resource has a vulnerability. The vulnerability might be known, might be unknown, does not mean it does not exist. All of these give rise to the concept that risk will never be zero. That is, there will never be a time that we say risk is non-existent, because vulnerability is always in resources. Threats may appear on the horizon to compromise the vulnerability. And if that's compromise or exploitation is successful, we would say risk has occurred. Examples, unpatched software. You've been using an application for so long, but you've never updated it, despite the fact that you've been prompted with an update or two. weak passwords, inadequate security controls, lack of user education. All of these are vulnerabilities that can be exploited by known or unknown threats. Vulnerabilities might be physical, a weak door, poor lightning, might be technical, power surge, power outage, software bug, or might be human, lack of awareness, lack of intelligence, negligent behavior. All of these amount to what? Vulnerabilities. We got a likelihood, the probability or the chance that risk will occur. Risk occurs when threats exploits vulnerability. Do you get that? The event called risk always have threats and vulnerability in it. But assessing the risk is premised on the likelihood or on the occurrence of that event and the impact of the event. I will get there, don't worry. I'm still coming there when assessing risk. Factors influencing the likelihood that risk can occur. Has it happened in the past? Has that incident occurred in the past? Wow, it may likely occur again. Was there a power surge? There might be power surge again. Okay, for instance, there's a power surge. Has it occurred before? Yes. Did you put measures in place? Or there is a power surge and we have recovered. But have you put measures in place to address power surge in the future? No. That is an indicator that it can occur again. Then threat intelligence. Once you have sufficient information about threats, that can inform you of the likelihood of it occurring again, and then, or recurring, then the state of your security controls. If security is weak, exploitation is possible. You have a computer running on a particular operating system, but it's always online, sharing and receiving resources. But you do not have an endpoint security on it. You don't have an antivirus on it. The likelihood that it will be infected by virus, which will eventually lead to data loss or system crash, is certain, because you do not have the protective feature on it. The wrong manpower in the right position will lead to some exposures. At some critical times, he or she might not know what should be done. Manpower is unaware of a new policy, a new standard, or a new framework, and continue operations as such. The likelihood that there might be failure of system is sure, because you've introduced a new policy, a standard, or a framework that they are unaware of. Otherwise, they would have implemented it. Because they've carried out business as usual, an incident can occur that will lead to what? To loss or impact, which we call risk. Then impact, being another core concept of risk or risk management, is the consequence of risk that has occurred. Has risk occurred? Yes. What is the consequence? Through risk assessments, we can determine the impacts of risk. Mind you, risk is an event. Do you get that? Risk is an event. Should it occur, the need for an assessment should be what is necessary. Should it be detected before it occurs, the need for an assessment is also necessary. To determine its impact so we can recover from it or institute measures that will forestall it from recurring. That's what assessment after it has occurred. Or our system is capable of detecting the risk ahead of it occurring. There's need for assessment also, so that we can also, determine what the impact will be should it occur, and put necessary measures in place so it does not occur. Risk management has a life cycle. We'll call it a day here today. We'll look at the life cycle of risk management in our next class. This would be a safe point to call it a day, so we can attend to what your questions. So, admin.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ade. Please let us appreciate Ade for that wonderful class. Let's appreciate him with lovely emojis, and that has been awesome. Thank you so much, Ade. It's a rich and insightful session. Thank you so much. I believe I speak for everyone here when I say this is packed with valuable information that can be immediately applied. It is not every day that we have the opportunity to learn from an instructor with such a deep expertise in both the technical and strategic aspects of cybersecurity. Thank you so much. Now, we are going to open the floor for questions. If you have a question related to what was taught today or anything connected to cybersecurity practice, please type it clearly in the chat box. All questions should be typed in the chat box. We will take them one at a time to ensure your questions are answered thoroughly. And I would like to emphasize that no question is too basic and no question is too complex. However, let's keep them brief and straight to the point so we can hear from as many participants as possible before we wrap up. Okay, so I have 2 questions here already. You can continue to drop your questions. So Ade, the first question I have here is, are the regulatory bodies tasked with ensuring compliance to these standards up to their duties, considering the rate of cyber insecurity ongoing? Should I take that again?
Please do. Please do.
Okay, so I'm going to also drop it again in the chat box. The question says, are the regulatory bodies tasked with ensuring compliance to these standards up to their duties, considering the rate of cyber insecurity ongoing?
Thank you. I will answer this clearly. First thing first, there's what we call modus operandi. The mode of operation, that's modus operandi. First, I'll also say that there is no 100% perfect system. But to answer that question, the answer is yes. Regulatory bodies that are tasked with compliance actually up to their duties. But I'll put a clause there. You see, standards, I said they are mandatory. Just like policy, they are also rigid. They don't change quickly. But the environments where these standards are implemented are dynamic. Standards are static over a period of time, sometimes 2 years, 3 years before they are reviewed, sometimes even 5, 10 years before they are reviewed. But the environment where they are to be implemented is constantly changing. So it means you may not expect so much, no matter how good or best you implement a standard, to give you 100% results in the now for a standard that is developed years ago. And that is why we use policies to adopt them and use programs to implement them. Please note the word adopt. Standards are adoptable. So in the course of implementing them, you can introduce some measures. Addition is allowed. The standard says 1 to 10. You are not meant to go below 10. That means the baseline for implementation is 10 as stated by the standard, but you can go above it. You can go 11, 12, and you can also, as an institution, make recommendations to the standards body. I hope you're getting. And then standards are generic. They are not tailored to your institution or tailored to an industry. Some are generic, some are industry-based. So Every organization adopting and implementing standard has unique performing environments. That is why standards are adoptable. You don't go below, but you can go above. So it is not just regulatory body alone going after you. You too should be dynamic in your implementation of standard, and that will reduce your cyber risk exposures. I hope I've answered that.
Okay, thank you so much, Ade. Another question here for you. Are we going to be doing anything programming in this training, like Kali, SQL, and Python?
Okay, we are not taking any programming language in this training. No, we are not taking any programming language. It's just mastering. We are mastering cybersecurity fundamentally. If you are taking or you want to take a software related, training that requires Kali and the likes, then there's a training meant for that. We have such training. You can come, make your inquiries and do your registrations. We have training for that. But this training or this program is meant to we just a mastering the fundamental cyber. So no software.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Ade. Another one for you. To be clear from the perspective of your teaching, can capabilities be what you want to do to solve a problem, and capacity as how much like resources or skill in use to handle the problem? Should I take that again?
That's technically correct. Technically correct. You know, these concepts are broad in their application. They are broad concepts, but that is correct. That is technically correct. Go ahead.
Okay, so thank you, Ade. I have another one. Earlier, you talked about cybersecurity governance. Did certain group policies in Active Directory or Azure, such as enforcing password with at least 8 characters, include? Let me just drop it in the chat box so you can read along.
Okay, I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it
Okay.
now. I'm in the chat here. Okay, let me just say, you said earlier you talked about cybersecurity governance, the setting group policies in Active Directory, that's AD or Azure, such as enforcing password with at least 8 characters, includes capital and special symbols. Are these considered an example of security governance? Yes, through the use of what? Security policies. I hope you get that. In cybersecurity governance, we have the following instrumentations: policies, procedures, frameworks, standards. I've mentioned them, right? I give you that pyramid or that triangle. So through the use of cybersecurity policy as a cybersecurity governance instrumentation, we can now state that password cannot be less than this. And then cybersecurity standards out there like CSF, ISMS from ISO and the likes actually have such specification. The length, the cases, and the characters in a password, they are what's stated. So you can adopt them and you make them a policy, your security policy. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The last question for the day before we wrap up. It says, what do you mean by if the personnel is not aware of a standard? Who is responsible for audits? Is it the cybersecurity expert designated or external auditors? When is the policy said to be violated? Typical example.
Thank you. Audits is an assurance function, whether it is internal or external. Organizations that rely on external audits alone exposes themselves or simply expose themselves to what? To attack. External audit is not an operational practice. It is periodic. It could be once a month, it could be once in a quarter, it could be once in 6 months, or even sometimes once in 2 years. Yes, I said so. I know institutions that carry out IT audit once in 2 years. Now imagine if that organization doesn't have an internal audit function and decides to wait for the next 2 years to have the IT audits, IT audits carried out. And within the scope of IT audits is network audits, cybersecurity audits, software audits, and so on and so forth, database audits and so on, including web. Now, do you think there are security measures unaudited, unreviewed? Can you trust it to be safe enough if it has not been assessed? And that is the reason why we should have audits as an internal process, it should be operationalized internally and also statutorily external. Now, who is responsible for audits? Of course, if the internal audits function is operationalized, we will have a process owner for that function, the head internal audit or head IT audit or head security audit. If it's external, we would have the third party come perform, who are the experts, come do the audit. So the line of responsibility is clear, right? Okay. You know, say, what do you mean if the personnel is not aware of a standard? Why should an organization adopt a standard and personnel are not aware? The reason why personnel will be unaware of a given standard has been adopted by a policy and implemented is because there was no training or no sensitization. And you might claim, but we sensitize how deep is the sensitization vis-a-vis the statements of the standard? Sorry, I'm an auditor. So I know what I'm saying. I'm a systems auditor, double as a cybersecurity auditor. So you are talking, a practitioner is speaking here. And I'm also a trainer, as you can see. So I do corporate training, I do individual trainings like this, and also I do audits. So I have experience in both worlds. So I can readily tell you that oftentimes personnel are unaware of the standard because there's a gap, a knowledge gap, which can only be filled with adequate sensitization. And more, we train them once is not enough. You can't tell me you did one-off training and is enough for a standard that took days, weeks, or even months to develop by top brains in the industry. And you expect that 1 hour class, 2 hours class is enough for them to absorb? No, it's not. So you must continue. So the onus is on the concerned personnel in the institution to put a system in place that keeps the personnel updated or informed, that's the correct word, about, you might choose to pick the lines of the standard, the concept of the standards one at a time, until you've completed the whole delivery based on the cycle you have defined. So is the cybersecurity expert designated? Okay. Of course, there's what we call cybersecurity audits. Should a cybersecurity audit be performed by non-cybersecurity experts? The answer is no. As a matter of fact, in cybersecurity, audits is an area of expertise and is within defensive security. I hope you get that. Now, when is a policy said to be violated? Compliance. Policies would have compliance, baseline. Let me put it that way. We talked about security baseline. The moment a review of that policy in terms of compliance report shows implementation is below the baseline, then we can take it. So let the institution set baselines. Please, this will work by having a checklist. So you have a checklist that defines acceptable level of compliance, and then you have a template for capturing what level of compliance. Then you map or you can have it automated. There are tools out there that, some are cloud solutions, some can be procured and installed on-prem, that is being used to implement GRC. So manpower or personnel can report their communication tools. They can report activities. So these systems, some are AI driven, some have advanced analytics feature. So they can capture based on the user's usage of that tool as they interact with the tool. So they can capture and automatically carry out compliance assessments and come up with a report. Then on the dashboard, if you were used to one, on the dashboard of such tool, you'll see the amber light, the green light, just like the traffic light. The ones in in red shows that there is non-compliance. The one in blue, in green shows that, oh, compliant, because there's a baseline set. So if that analysis meets up with the baseline, then compliance is in place. Otherwise, it will either show the amber light or shows the red lights. I hope you get that. So you may need to employ digital tools for the purpose, I mean, as a way of implementing GRC and enforcing or monitoring and measuring compliance. That's all there is to the question.
Thank you so much, Ade. Thank you so much. Yeah, another one actually dropped in. I don't know if you'd like to take it now. It says, what KPI or KRI are we currently using to measure cybersecurity performance? Then how does our current cybersecurity governance framework align with recognized standards such as follow?
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Institutions are meant to implement their KPIs and KRIs. I mean, you shouldn't expect, if a regulatory body can come up with KPIs, I mean, KRIs, it is true, I agree. For instance, a regulatory institution in the banking sector can come up with KRIs or, for the regulated. It is true. But then the onus is a governance responsibility. It is the leader's responsibility to set their KPI and KRIs. It is their duty, their responsibility to do that. If they can't do that, then let them outsource it to an expert or a professional who do that for them, and then put measures in place to a system in place to measure these performances or these risk indicators. I want to quickly say this, that the reason risk of certain nature occur, or risk whose impact is far-reaching, the reason they occur is because KROIs are not monitored. QED, I can defend this in any gathering, anywhere, any day, anytime. It is either the KROI is insufficient to capture certain risk exposures, or manpower is unskillful to interpret the intelligence from the KROI, or manpower is negligent to monitor the KROI. But I want to say this, in a sane environment, KROIs should not be manual. It should be automated. Work with tools that can capture those KROIs. Should you run KROIs manually, that will be at the discretion of the personnel who is capturing it. So on what ranking or what scale would he classify a particular indicator as key and the other as not key? So please rely on technology to help you. Then how does our current cybersecurity governance framework align with recognized standard? When you say our, I don't understand this. I don't know where when you say our, are you talking from which part of the world? So I may not be able to answer this. The audience here are from different walks of life and different parts of the world. So you are simply personalizing that question. So I'm sorry, I can't respond to that. I think I've entertained the questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ade. Please let us appreciate him once again for class 2. Let's appreciate our instructor once again. Thank you so much. We have now come to the end of class, to the close of class 2 of the Mastering Cybersecurity Essential Training. You agree with me, it has been a powerful and enriching session. And a heartfelt thank you again to Ade for delivering deep insights and strategies that we can apply immediately. And to all participants, thank you for showing up, and thank you for your consistency and engaging with the content. Please remember that certificates will only be issued to participants who registered for this program and attended a minimum of 4 live classes. So if you are yet to register, please do that so that you'll be eligible for the certificate. And for participants who missed any parts, I saw some questions regarding